Alright, so this demo is going to go over the capturing of an event via video and then converting that into a single image. And so what we have here is I've started off by just doing a simple screen recording. If I double click on this, we'll go ahead and play this. I have my sound turned off for obvious reasons, you don't need to hear all that. But simple event, you're just going to play through here, and in a second you're going to see me walk down, pick up the ball, and then walk out of the scene. Okay, and so what I've done here is I use that video to come back, and I've taken screen captures out of that. Hopefully you guys shoot a nice high resolution video, and so then that is going to enable me to sequence this into a nice set of movements here. So as I go through and toggle these on and off, you can see the event happening almost in stop motion here. So if we wanted to, we could convert this into a GIF, or we could tween these together if we wanted to. But essentially we have all these captures here. And if you want to, you can use the print screen, or you can use the snip. Hopefully you guys are doing that at a particular speed, or sorry, at a particular resolution that this is going to turn out better than mine did, because I was just shooting at pretty standard camera resolution. And so what we're going to do now is the first thing we're going to do, once you guys get all the screen captures in, if you come in here, and I'll show you how to do that just once here. So if I go, we're going to play through and say we want that moment right there. We'll go to full screen, and then if we hit function, print screen, that's going to put that on our clipboard here in our machine. So we hop back into Photoshop, and I'll just create a new document. It's automatically going to size it to our screen resolution based on what's on our clipboard. Hit Control V, we can crop that in there. Alright, and then what I would just recommend getting all of the stuff in there, and then you can do, once all of your images are in there, you can use the crop tool. I'll press C, just crop out all this extra stuff that we don't necessarily care about. Now the alternative to this would be to just shoot a series of rapid fire photographs. For our purposes, I didn't actually have a camera that had that function on it, but if you do, just if you can shoot a consistent succession of photographs on your iPhone or however you want to do it, that's fine. Just make sure that your camera is mounted on a tripod or something stable as you guys go through it, because that's going to be the thing that's really critical about this, is having a stationary, because you need your environment to remain static while you're actually moving in there. Okay. And so if you hit enter once you're done cropping, and you can set all those guys up. Alright, and so that's the quick way of doing that. It took me about I think 6 or 7 minutes to get all these guys in there once I got a flow going. And once you have those guys in there, you want to just keep pasting them one on top of the other until you get there. And we could rename each one of these layers. If we come over here and click on this, we could call this 1, 2, 3, and but it's sort of already taken care of that for us, so we're not going to go ahead and do this or that. Now there's a quick way to go through this that I'm going to show you guys, so that you guys can sort of execute this pretty easily. This may not necessarily work depending on your guys' lighting conditions. You can change the event, you can change the lighting. But the quick way to go about this is to go through, and under the layer features here, if we just click this up, there's a bunch of different ways that we can come in here and have these layers either relate to each other or relate to another layer. So if we come in here and we can say we want this to lighten, you can see that this starts to ghost me in on top of the environment, which was remaining consistent through my photographs. But what we actually want to do is, if we use darken, you can see that this actually is going to produce an image here where you can see everything that is shifting in the environment. Alright, and then what we're going to be able to do here is say we want to celebrate a particular moment in the event. We'll leave that at 100% opacity, and the rest of this I'm going to go ahead and dial this back. I'm just going to turn this down to 50%. You'll be able to see how that has an impact on these guys here. And so I'm just going to come in here and select these, toggle this down, and scroll this over. Right, and then from there we can go ahead and escape. I'm on my crop command for some reason. If we hit V, that'll take us back to just our typical move command here. Alright, and so now what we can do is we can take this and let's go ahead and if we just select all the layers, right click, we can either select merge visible or just merge the layers that have been selected, or we can just flatten everything. And that, if you have hidden layers in there, that will get rid of or delete those layers. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and merge the visible or merge the layers. Okay, so now this is flattened, and you guys need to be really careful about that step. If you guys don't save before you do that, you can potentially lose all your information. I no longer can modify any of the opacities on each one of these guys that develop this image. This thing is now very flat and very static. So each one of these pixels is a color, not a representation of several layers overlaid on top of each other. So be really very wary of that step. If you hit Control Z, you can go back. I recommend saving at this point. You'll note that I did for this particular guy, saved at this moment. Okay, so just be aware of that. And so we'll go ahead and just go about this a different way. Right click, let's just go ahead and merge the visible. And you can see that did exactly the same thing as selecting all and merging the layers I had selected. So then from there, we can make a couple of adjustments in here. I may not really care for how this is visually coloring this. And so if I come over here, there's two things that in particular I want you guys to pay attention to. First is exposure, and this is just an easy way to sort of brighten up some of those images. So I'll just give that a nice little boost. And then the second is going to be curves, and sometimes if you need to adjust, you can adjust the levels as well. And this will give us a little bit more, just a little bit. You can add points on the curve by clicking in the space outside. You can see that turns into a crosshair. Or we can grab these and move them around. Alright, so we hit OK. Now one function in Photoshop you want to pay attention to, if you hit Control Z, it just undoes the next command. If you hit Control Z again, it'll redo that command. So it doesn't actually step back, it just enables you to cycle back and forth. So that's something you want to pay attention to. If you actually want to go undo and continue to step backward, if you hit Control Alt Z, you can go keep and continually stepping back, as far as your history will allow. Okay. And if you want to see your history under the window, you can come here and see a history, and this will give you a list of all the commands. And the nice thing about this is I can come back here, and if I go back in time to this, I can actually go back to different moments in my history of my editing. Now, again, I'm showing you this menu. Be very careful. If I make one change at this point in history, just like in Back to the Future, this is going to skew off, and you'll no longer be able to get back to these other adjustments. Okay. So you want to pay attention to that. Okay, and so at this point, that's the quick way of going through and executing this. And so what we do now is we go to File, Save As, and we could save this out as any CMYK format here, JPEG, and then we can put that onto our guy and call this sample 1 onto our 11 by 17 in portrait format. We can get that. Just put a low underscore so I don't delete some of the work that I'm doing. Okay. Alright, and so then that's the first way of going about that, and that's just sort of the quick dirty that should take you probably about 30 minutes once you have your video all set to do. And then the other thing I want to show you guys is sort of the more longhand way of going about this, and that's by using vector masks to go through this. And what I've done here is if I turn off all of these layers, you'll be able to see that what I've done is I've actually taken and I've masked off an area of my particular character. I haven't actually deleted that. That still completely exists. It just used a vector mask. I'm sorry, not a vector mask, just a masking area to crop out the parts of the content that I want. Okay. So the way that we're going to do that, there's a couple of things, and this will enable you guys to go through and play with some of the selection tools. The first way we can go about this is if we just create a mask, and now you can see everything is white. What you do is you use the brush tool, and anywhere you actually paint, and you'll see this, notice the swatch is black. Wherever you paint black, you're going to actually, it's going to seem like you're erasing it, but you're actually just masking that area off, so we don't actually see that. You can come in here and adjust your brush. If you increase the size of it or the hardness, like see, you make this really soft, you can make this sort of appear like spray paint. This isn't really all that accurate, right? And so that gives us a couple of problems as we go through and want to do any kind of detail work. You can note I've already deleted part of my back. But if you use the wand tool, this says, if we look, pay attention to across the top here, we can set the tolerance to our selection. So if we have set the tolerance to 20, we can get that much. If we set the tolerance to 10, we'll get much less, much smaller selections out of that. Okay. And then if we select contiguous or not contiguous, we can select everything that is that color inside the document. So it'll enable us to grab things outside of just one collective area. But we want probably to just be able to do this. So just to give you an idea what that looks like. We're going to increase our tolerance back up to 20. This is going to create a different kind of problem for us as we go through this. If we use this selection tool, we can then use our brush. We don't have to be all that careful about how we move it, because it's just going to clear out all the areas in that selection alone. Okay? But if we zoom in, you can see that it didn't really do the best job of going about that. And so you're going to end up having to do a little bit more cleanup with this, just to soften the edges. But this enables you to work quickly with large areas and then just clean up. Undo that. Control Z. Clean up just the edges here. You'll get better at that. I'll just leave that in there. Okay. I don't think my head is that rough. This is why one of those Wacom tablets. Kind of handy. Okay, and so then you can come in here. Now the wand tool does really well for areas like that back wall, which is pretty consistent in color. Doesn't do so well when we get into this kind of environment. And for this particular environment, we're going to use the lasso tool. There's a magnetic lasso, and so what that does is if you click, it will try and trace all of the edges. And if you click, it'll add a little weight for you. It does a pretty good job. And then as we draw with this, so it's going to give us that. And then if we use the brush and we're still on our mask, we go over here and we can just make this really nice and hard. Go about that. I hit Control D to deselect. We just click that little extra toe I gave myself. Just clean that up. Alright, and so that'll be how you guys can go through and start to select out these different areas. Alright, and then from there what you can do is you can start to go through and adjust the opacities of each one of these guys. So if I come in here, I've been working at 60% opacity. Now that I have that guy done, I'll just drop that down. And I think I have an extra, I put an extra layer in there as I was going through this. Alright, and then if I turn on the layer beneath it, you can start to see how this is going to start to build up. And this will give you a much nicer, sort of cleaner graphic as you go through it. You can already see that this is sort of washed out. You don't have a ton of control over that, but this would be the way that you really start to build that really nice sort of photo montage graphic out of there. Alright, and then if we come back over, it looks like I missed a spot on this foot that I need to clean up. Oh, I actually need to be on that mask, not actually drawing on my foot. Alright. And that's going to be the two ways that you can go about this. This will take a little bit longer. You're ultimately going to get a much nicer product and have a much nicer level of control over that. But those are going to be some of the techniques that you guys can utilize to develop and engage this. Okay?